How's it going, guys? This is Holly with Grindworx, and today we are talking about knife lock types. The things that prevent your knives from closing shut on your fingers. So we're starting with the Buck 373 Trio Woodgrain knife. Technically, this knife does not lock. It is what they call a slip joint knife. So it's kind of a misnomer to call a slip joint a lock type, but it is a common mechanism for traditional knives. So there's enough tension that this blade, is held open. Gravity doesn't just, make it fall shut, but very little force is needed to close it. There's nothing preventing it from closing. Like a lot of the traditional buck knives, it's got the beautiful brass bolsters and the wood handle scales. I'm not going to be going over the details of these knives too much in this video, since this is about locking types, but I will have links to all the knives in the description below if you want to check them out. So next we have a Nagao Higonokami friction folder. That isn't a mouthful, I don't know what is. So similar to slip joint knives, friction folders don't actually lock, but they do have a retention system that keeps the blade open. And that system is very simple and consists only of the pressure of your hand or your grip while you are using the knife. You can see that there is this tab that extends from the tang of the knife. So when you're holding it, your thumb supplies the pressure that it needs to stay open. So just as an example, if you're using this knife to, like strip some bark off a branch, the pressure on the blade is bracing this tab against the handle, which keeps it from the blade from, hyperextending the other direction. And then just like slip joint, you just fold that blade closed when you're done with it. Next we have the Opinel number 8 Beechwood folder. So this Opinel features our first real lock for this video. It's a twist lock. So in this case, we got a nail nick opener. So this knife has a collar or ring, which Opinel is calling their ViroBlock safety ring. And by twisting the ring clockwise, the blade's path is back into the handle is blocked. So it's locked into the open position. There may be a little wiggle room, but it's not going to close until you twist that back again and fold the blade closed. About 15 bucks on the site right now. Here's another buck. This is the Ranger 112. I've featured this a couple times. The term lockback refers to the fact that this type of lock is located on the back end of the handle, back there. So lockback knives use a mechanism in which the blade and a long metal bar, the lock, sort of interlock together. So they interlock like this, and that holds the blade in place. So you can see right there, that's where they join. So the tang of the blade has a hook that comes up this direction, the lock has one that points downward, and they fit together real nice and snug. One of the best, strongest locking mechanisms out there. But it does require two hands to close, and I'm not a fan of the fact that your fingers are in the way. I'd rather have something that keeps my fingers out of the way. This Buck Ranger 112 is about $55 on the site right now. As always, make sure you check current pricing. Next up we have the Schrade SCH706 liner lock folder. Nice carbon fiber scales. Now before we talk about liner locks, we need to talk about liners. So some knives have handles comprised of multiple layers that are all kind of screwed together. That's a way to combine different materials to kind of lighten the weight of the knife overall. So you have the liners that are kind of the interior parts of the handle, the interior structures, and then the scales are the outward facing pieces. So this is how a liner lock works. One of the liners is tensioned inward toward the blade. So when you open the knife, let me just demonstrate that. So when you open the knife, that tension pushes the liner in such a way that it engages with the end of the blade and prevents it from closing. So to close the blade, you use your thumb to push the liner outward again, and close the knife. Definitely a better option, I'd say, than the lockback. You still kind of get your fingers in the way just a little bit when you're closing it. But it doesn't take quite as much pressure to disengage that lock, and so I think there's less chance of slippage or the blade kind of being forced shut with all that pressure you're trying to use. This guy's only 10 bucks on the site right now, by the way. Next we have the Kershaw Barge Framelock knife, 15 bucks. Now Framelocks use the same basic concept as liner locks, but the lock is an integral part of the frame of the handle itself rather than a separate piece. This part of the handle is all one piece of steel. And again, that part of the frame is tensioned inward and locks in place. Use your thumb to disengage. Close the blade. I particularly like frame locks because the lock itself is a little wider. Sometimes when you have a really skinny liner lock, it's a little too thin, a little too sharp on my thumb, on the pad of my thumb when I'm trying to close it. So I like having something that's a little thicker. And last of all, we have what Benchmade calls the Axis lock. There are a lot of other brands that feature this kind of lock under different names. There's the Rapid lock, people call it the Ambi lock, because it is a lock you can use on both sides. It's ambidextrous, so it's lefty friendly. Now, Benchmade is a little bit of an endangered species on Grindworx. We don't carry a whole lot of them because Benchmades do tend to be a little pricier, but every so often we do have a couple in stock. So this is the Kershaw Griptilian. It's about $150 on the site right now. And the way the Axis lock works is it's this bar that extends to both sides of the handle, and there are springs on either end that allow you to slide it back and forth. So when I slide it out of the way, you can see the end of the blade there, the end of the tang, and it's been milled to interlock perfectly with the shape of that axis. So when you slide this out of the way, especially in a knife that isn't brand new and has been worn in a little bit, it can allow the blade to just drop shut. So people love this style of lock because it's truly one-handed. Open it up. There you go. Your fingers are never in the way. So if Benchmade isn't quite in your price range, definitely go check out Elite Tactical. That's a brand that features this type of lock, and they're fantastic knives, good quality, but more budget friendly. So there you have it, guys. Again, not an exhaustive list. There are a lot of other ways that manufacturers have come up with to lock your blades. These are just some of the more common ones that I've seen and some of the ones that you're more likely to encounter, at least on Grindworx. So for me, I'd have to say that the Framelock and the Axis lock are my personal favorites, just for ease of use and how comfortable they are in hand. But I'd love to hear from you what your favorite lock type is. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when a new video drops. If you're interested in any of these knives, visit the links below or hop on grindworx.com. They are all for sale on the site currently. Definitely join our email list. That's where we'll let you know about any new knives dropping or any sales. As always, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.